right, and welcome, my friends. J.R. Dukes at your service. I appreciate everybody being here with me today. Give me 1 second as I quickly check and make sure everything is working the way it should work. It looks like everything is going well on Twitch. Hello to everyone on YouTube. It is definitely a pleasure to join you today. I have a lot to talk about, and what an exciting and wonderful time to be alive, right? Just a lot of good things going on. And we're going to talk about it today, my friends. If you haven't done so already, please take a minute, introduce yourself in the chat. Let me know where you're from. And of course, if you have any comments or have any questions, feel free to put the question in accordingly, and I'll get to it as soon as time allows. So, looks like we're looking good. I don't see any audio issues whatsoever. Okay. As I said, wonderful day, wonderful day. I am so happy to see James Comey finally getting exactly what he is due. This guy is really a piece of you know what, and it just brightens my face. It just makes my day to see what kind of mess this guy is, and to finally see the tide turning, if you will. I can only tell you, thank God for President Trump, right? I meant, of course, today the big news is James Comey showed up in court and was arraigned on 2 specific charges. And today we're going to be talking about these specific charges. Let me go ahead and give you a sneak peek of what we're going to go over today, and I'll blow this up as time goes on. Got a couple quick articles we're going to go through, and I have the actual indictment. The actual indictment that has the 2 counts on there. And listen, I know there's a lot of people saying, oh, hey, this case is going to be dismissed. This is really a whole lot of nothing. Let me tell you this. Straightforward. I have a lot of friends that are practicing attorneys, former practicing attorneys, retired attorneys. One specific friend is a criminal defense attorney. I assure you that the ride can kill you, if you know what I'm saying. It doesn't matter in the end if this guy is acquitted. It's the ride, the expense, the stress. Exactly what they did to President Donald Trump, his family, his children. I'm going to get into it with you. Trust me, we're going to go through it all together. I have a completely, let's just say I put a lot into this today, and I hope that everyone gets a better sense of exactly how momentous this is and what a wonderful thing this is. Look, normally I would tell you that anytime someone's indicted, anytime someone faces jail, anytime someone's convicted, it's a sad time, a sad day. I just call it what it is. Normally, my first thoughts way back when was, hey, I hope when President Trump comes into office that we can basically just turn a blind eye to it, so to speak, that President Trump could be the bigger man, that he could simply acknowledge what happened to him and move on for the betterment of the country. But I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong in my initial thoughts. And the reason, straightforward, point blank, is these woke Democrats, these evil people that engage, and I'm talking specifically about former President Joe Biden, they engaged in this lawfare, if you will, and the only way to root this out, to snuff it out one time finally for everyone in perpetuity, is to make sure that a clear, strong message is sent by holding people accountable that need to be held accountable. You know, I'm a firm believer there is a much bigger conspiracy going on here. I don't believe that this is just limited little cases. Sweet Fannie Willis and her lover boy, Nathan Wade, out in Fulton County, Georgia, Alvin Bragg over in New York, this Jack Smith nonsense. You got the D.C. problems. Of course, they hammered them here in my home state of Florida. The judge here did an excellent job in taking care of the nonsense that President Trump went through. But what happened to him, the weaponization of the DOJ, the weaponization of the FBI should never have happened to really any American, but definitely a person that doesn't deserve it. The entire federal government was weaponized against President Trump and the people that followed him. I'm sure you've seen this new story that just came out, basically pertaining to January 6th. And what was there? Almost 300 FBI officers in that crowd. And these are the same people that were facing 5, 10, 15, I think in one case, 20 plus years in prison, federal prison, for their alleged wrongdoings on January 6th. But that's not the subject of today's video, our stream together. I want to stay focused on lawfare. I want to focus on the great job President Trump is doing, and that's exactly what I want us to talk about today. So let me just make sure everybody can hear me and there's no issues. American Nana, as always, I sincerely appreciate you being with me today. Thank you for everybody that is going to tune in now, that's listening on Twitch, and that, of course, will look at the video at a later date. Again, thanks for being here. So let's go ahead and get into what we're going to talk about today. Ladies and gentlemen, today is one of those days that justice is finally catching up. James Comey, yes, the very same man who abused his power at the FBI to try to take down President Trump, has now not only been indicted, this guy has actually stood before a federal judge and been arraigned on these 2 charges. This is the man who thought he was untouchable, who weaponized our government against the will of the American people, and now he is finally being held to account. And let me tell you, personally, it's extremely satisfying. As I said earlier, I hope this is just the beginning, because Comey was not alone. This lawfare didn't hinge on one man named James Comey. It come from an entire machine, an entire apparatus. Biden might be the worst president in our lifetime, but the one thing we must never forget about him, and I mean never, is that on his watch, he introduced lawfare as a weapon against our political machine, against our political, just our political apparatus in general, and de facto against the United States. And because he did that to his political opponents, that is one thing no president in our history should ever do, period. Full stop. Think about it. They tried to literally crucify Donald Trump and his family. They went after his children, his businesses, his associates. They tried to drain all of his money, all of his assets, bankrupt him, even kick him off the ballot. Matter of fact, they actually did kick him off the ballot for a limited time. They literally turned him into the so-called, what were they saying? He's a 34-time felon. I'm sure we all remember Alvin Bragg and the joy that all these woke, crazy Democrats had over that so-called 34-time conviction. Remember, even DA Letitia James not only got a $450 million judgment, think about that, $450 million judgment against him for nothing, absolutely nothing. She also tried, this is the crazy thing, she also tried to fight his ability to even post a bond for the appeal. In most states, in order to have an appeal or to affect an appeal, you have to literally put up the money that the judgment is against you. And I don't care how wealthy you are, very few people in this world can come up with $450 million cash, and they know it. All these people know it. That's the reason why they struggled and pushed so hard to prevent Donald Trump from being able to put the bonds together so that he could actually appeal this case and basically get it out of New York City, if you know what I'm saying, get it up to a higher court that could take a very hard look at this case and see it for the rot that it actually was. But I can assure you this, sweet Letitia James, she has her day coming soon. And make no mistake, if it wasn't for God's grace and Donald Trump's victory, our president, Donald Trump, would be in jail today, period. I've talked about this on my program before. He would be in prison right now today at Rikers Island had he not won the election. And as far as America, frankly, would be unrecognizable. I don't even want to start going down that tangent. It just gives me chills thinking about it. Can you imagine the nastiness, the restriction on our speech, on our free rights that we would be suffering right now had Donald Trump lost this election? And I've had people say, oh, you know what, you're being extreme. You're exaggerating. Donald Trump would never go to jail. They would never allow an American president to go to jail. I assure you of this, ladies and gentlemen, there is no judge in the world that could literally have even a first-time offender before them convicted of 34 felonies. The court literally had to sanction, aka punish, Donald Trump and his attorneys for infractions that Donald Trump allegedly did by speaking out during the trial. 10 times this Judge Merchan had to quote unquote punish Donald Trump. So 34 felonies plus his attitude plus the 10 sanctions that he had to face, he would be in jail today. Make no mistake about it. But here's the beautiful thing. The fuse they lit is now exploding in their faces. They weaponized the DOJ, the FBI. They coordinated these so-called hit jobs with state, local governments. I mean, this was on a state level, a federal level, even down to the city levels, as evident in New York City. They thought they could jail Donald Trump and just walk away. Well, guess what? Retribution is real. The day of reckoning has come, and the day of reckoning has just started. And President Trump, by the grace of God, is making these people finally pay. And amen to that. And now the Democrats are panicking. I mean, they're all over television. They basically want this whole thing to go away. They're screaming that Trump is imprisoning his enemies. He's imprisoning his enemies. He's on a retribution tour. Really? Spare me. They threw Peter Navarro in jail for 3 months, just refusing to testify to Congress. And they celebrated that. And now James Comey himself is in the very same position. But for somehow they don't think James Comey should face any type of justice, that he should not be held to account for his deeds. How many times have we heard no one is above the law, especially from that crooked AG, Letitia James? So I don't care if the media is calling this retribution. Doesn't bother me at all. They can say he's on a revenge. I don't care. I say amen to that. I don't care if the Democrats cry foul. I don't care about any of it. For the first time in years, real accountability is coming. James Comey's indictment is more than just one man facing justice. As the woke Democrats have told us in relation to Donald Trump, it's a signal. It's a signal. It's a message to Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, Alvin Bragg, sweet Letitia James, Adam Schiff, and we all know what President Trump calls Adam Schiff. I won't repeat it here. And every other corrupt politician and prosecutor, aka Alvin Bragg, who thought they could weaponize the law against their enemies. Guess what? Guess what? Your time is coming. Yes, your time is coming. In my take, President Trump is carrying out God's work by standing up for the American people, showing us that the rule of law cuts both ways. I mean, you call it an eye for an eye. I don't care. It is what it is. And unfortunately, in this fallen and imperfect world, at this time in our nation's history, it's absolutely necessary. You don't get to destroy families, lock up your political opponents, and shred our freedoms without consequences. And let's be clear, I don't even care what the jury ultimately decides for Comey. I really don't, because the process itself, the exposure of his corruption, the humiliation of being dragged through the very system he abused, him experiencing a little bit, just a little bit of what President Trump endured, well, that's for all of us to see. That is justice. That's the ride that tortures a guilty man's soul. So let's thank God. Let's thank President Trump. And let's remember this. The swamp is trying to destroy Trump. But in the end, it's Donald Trump and the American people who are standing with him who will destroy the swamp by draining this corrupt swamp. And my friends, that's what winning looks like. That's what being in the grace of God looks like. And of course, that's my opinion. Take it or leave it. I'm curious if you agree with me. Please put it in the comments if you do or do not. I'm always curious as to what you think. So let's go ahead and start sharing a screen here, and let's see what we have that we can do here. Okay, let's take just a quick look, and let's see what President Donald Trump had to say about this indictment for Comey here. I don't know if you can see it clearly on your screen or not. Let me see if I can blow this up just a little bit bigger. We'll see how this works. Okay, that may be all right for now. Justice in America, one of the worst human beings this country has ever been exposed to, is James Comey, the former corrupt head of the FBI. Today, he was indicted by a grand jury on 2 felony counts for various legal and unlawful acts. He has been so bad for our country for so long, and is now at the beginning to be held responsible for his crimes against our nation. Make America great again. And of course, that's from our great president, Donald Trump. Amen to that. I think that if you look at the comments here, there's a ton of comments on here. A lot of people are very happy that this day, that this sense of justice is finally coming. And again, amen to that, right? So let's go and take a quick peek at this indictment here. I wanted to go through it together. I'm going to have to change the screen just a bit. Okay, I'll read it out to you. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. There we go. Yeah, maybe we'll see that a little bit easier. All right. It is a quick indictment. It's a short indictment. It's only 2 pages, but guess what? I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't matter. You're still going to face the same amount of time in prison, whether it's a 1-page indictment or a 300-page indictment. It does not matter, ladies and gentlemen. So despite the talking heads on TV, pay no attention to it. It matters. It matters gravely when you're in front of that judge. I had someone describe it to me one time, a long time ago, that when you're on a criminal trial, when you're facing a criminal proceeding like this, it's kind of like you're putting, I don't want to be too graphic about this, but you're basically at this defense table and you're putting your privates on the table, and you get blindfolded and you have the prosecution blindfolded, and they go around with a hammer swinging it several times at the table to see what they hit. I can imagine that that's probably a very uncomfortable and vulnerable feeling, to put it mildly. Here we go. United States of America versus James B. Comey Jr. Count 1, false statements within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch of the United States government, 18 U.S.C. 101. And count 2, obstruction of a congressional proceeding, 18 U.S.C. 1505. Now, I love to talk about the law on this channel. I love to tell you things that attorneys can't tell you because they're licensed attorneys. I've said it many times and I'll say it again. Obstruction is always a BS charge. It just is. It's just something that the police charge you with when they really want to stick it to you and they really want to get you, because it's generally a very broad type of statute, and it can be easier to prove in court depending on certain factors. But if nothing else, it's good enough to get you arrested, to keep you in jail, to cause you pain if that's what they choose to cause. And that's exactly what's going on in this particular case. We're going to briefly read through this together. Count 1, false statements within the jurisdiction of legislative branch, United States government, on or about September 30th, 2020 in the Eastern District of Virginia. The defendant, James B. Comey Jr., did willfully and knowingly make a materially false, fictitious, and fraudulent statement in a manner within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch of the United States government by falsely stating to a U.S. senator during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing that, quote, and this is what he said, had not, quote, authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news scripts, end quote. And of course, that is patently false. The second count, they are saying that person 3, we don't know who person 3, that he had in fact authorized person 3 to serve as an anonymous source in a news reports regarding an FBI investigation concerning person 1, all in violation 18 U.S.C. 101A2. Not good for him. And then number 4, on or about September 30, 2020, in the Eastern District of Virginia, the defendant did corruptly endeavor to influence, obstruct, and impede the due and proper exercise of the power of inquiry. This is the obstruction charge, under which an investigation was being had before the Senate Judiciary Committee by making false and misleading statements before that committee, all in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1505. And of course, it is signed by Lindsay Halligan. And I'll have more to say about her in the future. She's getting a lot of heat and getting tore up in the press. Again, don't buy it. This woman is very capable. She's very smart. I think she's a former beauty queen or something to that effect. I'll have to go back and double check on it. But she is the real deal. And you know, listen, there's a lot of comments that I've heard, again, with these talking heads. They're saying something like, oh, she doesn't have any experience. She doesn't know what she's doing. Really? Is that the standard? Well, guess what? If you remember the Fani Willis BS case against President Trump, the so-called RICO case, she gave $1 million, approximately $1 million, to her boyfriend, Nathan Wade. And guess how much experience he had prosecuting a case? 0. Guess how many RICO trials he tried? 0. One of my best performing videos, I think it's close to 300,000 views as of right now, was a video where I walk you through the court dynamics where this so-called RICO prosecutor, a.k.a. Nathan Wade, I refer to him simply as a lover boy. This guy here is a clown. This guy is incompetent. You talk about incompetent, that's an incompetent guy. He doesn't know what he's doing. He didn't even know the difference in a grand jury and a special grand jury. And remember, in the video, I would say the judge at least bent over backwards, trying not to make him look like a fool. And I would say he owes that judge a debt of gratitude, because he definitely looked and played the part of an incompetent idiot. But I digress. Let's continue on. Fox News, how James Comey's indictment could go south for the DOJ. Again, don't listen to this news. I don't care. I just want to click the first paragraph or two here. As former Director James Comey stares down a 2-count federal indictment alleging he made false statements to Congress and obstructed justice, the Department of Justice faces an uphill climb in securing a conviction. The prosecution always faces an uphill climb. Again, don't drill down. Don't believe the nonsense that they keep trying to tell you in the so-called mainstream press. Prosecution always, at the end of the day, has a high burden to prove each and every count, and they have to prove what's called the elements of each and every count beyond the standard of a reasonable doubt. That's a high bar. That is something that's difficult for any prosecutor, folks. So don't believe it otherwise. Interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan of the Eastern District of Virginia is under pressure to move the prosecution forward. Look, any case involving something like this is going to be challenging. It's going to be a lot of work. Again, the ride is all that's important. This man is now branded as an accused individual. This will be a mark against him for all time. It's going to cost him a ton of money, a ton of stress, a ton of aggravation. He's going to get a taste of what he did to Donald Trump and to his family, or at least he was part of this machine. Let's go with it that way. Part of the machine that caused all this pain for Donald Trump. And he was into that Russia nonsense, that Russia nonsense. He was one of the people that was helping to put forward this nonsense to effectively try to take down a sitting president of the United States, steering Trump 1.0. I mean, I really can't put it any softer. That's exactly what transpired. So let's take a trip down memory lane and let's go over just a few things here. Donald Trump's reaction. Justice in America, one of the worst human beings this country has ever been exposed to, is James Comey, a former corrupt head of the FBI. Today, he was indicted by a grand jury on 2 felony counts for various illegal and unlawful acts. He has been so bad for our country for so long and is now at the beginning of being held responsible for his crimes against our nation. Make America great again. President Donald Trump. Amen to that. Now, here is James Comey, sweet James Comey. The day after Joe Biden was sworn in as president, this is James Comey calling for Trump to be thrown in prison and barred from running for office again. You tell me, ladies and gentlemen, you tell me what kind of guy this is right here. Okay, let's take a look at this together.
Convict him bar him from future service, have the prosecutors, the local prosecutors in New York, pursue him for the fraudster that he was before he ever became president, lock him up for the garden variety frauds he did there, but don't give him that center stage, that dominant role in our national life, just down the street where Joe Biden is trying to heal this nation.
Oh yeah, Joe Biden did a lot to try to heal this nation. This is former director James Comey. He was having a lot of fun right after Donald Trump left office. He really thought that he was going to be able to be the one of the individuals to drive home the screw, so to speak, against President Trump. And of course, retribution in this case, justice, I'll go with justice in this case, is definitely on its way. 2023, James Comey on who to prosecute for January 6th. This is his comment in 2023 about what to do and how to do it. And let's see if he feels the same way now, but it's worth pointing out. Here we go.
Do you agree with the strategy of focusing on the Oath Keepers and focusing on prosecuting that group of individuals first in order for it to be a deterrent?
You've got to throw the net wide, get all of them, both the organized groups, Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, but find everybody who went into that building. Find them all. Again, not because of my concern that those people who committed a misdemeanor they're going to go into the community and reoffend. The message has to be sent of zero tolerance. We will find everyone and punish everyone who went in there so that no one does it again. We will hunt you to the end of the earth, even for a misdemeanor, and make you pay for that, to send that message.
Yeah, I agree totally. We need to do what the former FBI director just said. We need to send a message, even for a misdemeanor. We need to hunt you down to the ends of the earth. We need to punish each and every one of you. Remember, this is the January 6th nonsense, the beginning of this so-called lawfare. It's now come out in the press that 300 FBI agents was in that crowd. And of course, we've all seen the videos online where they're essentially edging people on. Hey, come on. Let's go into the building. I don't want to get started on that tangent, but y'all all know what I'm talking about. So we need to make sure we treat James Comey here with the same kindness, the same mercy, the same respect that he was showing everyone else. He was showing everyone part of MAGA, Donald Trump, his family, and all the J6ers. I agree with him. No one's above the law. They need to be held accountable, and we need to hunt them down. Amen to all that. Now, here's an interview. Comey taunting Trump 2 months ago. I spoke out about him, and that despite their absolute best efforts, they have been never able to get me. Really? Well, this is what not to do when you have someone like President Donald Trump in office, right?
Yeah, I'm still considered a villain in MAGA world. I hope I said that correctly, although I've offended enough people in MAGA world, it doesn't matter at this point. I'm not sure exactly why that is. I often joke I'm the relationship that Trump can't get over, wakes up in the middle of the night thinking about me and how I'm living my best life. I think it has some combination of I really have had a happy, productive life since then, and that I spoke out about him, and that despite their absolute best efforts, they were never able to get me.
Well, that's not going to age very well, is it? Never able to get me. You can bet that's going to be played in front of the jury. I can almost absolutely guarantee, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be something that they're going to play as one of the exhibits showing his attitude, the way he looks at all this. Remember, this is the same guy, too, that was walking around putting shells on the beach together, saying to 86-47 to basically kill the president of the United States. Obscene, insane. This is a guy that's been aching for it for quite some time. And it's not like he's been an innocent player and he's just basically, Donald Trump one day decides he's going to take him out. Look, this guy orchestrated all the nonsense, a lot of it that was aimed directly at President Trump, especially during his first administration. And of course, as you see by all these videos, he's done nothing except continuously encourage prosecutors, a weaponized lawfare of the DOJ, to go after and hammer anyone and everyone It is what it is, right? He deserves every bit of it. This is kind of a cute little montage right here. We're going to listen
No
to
one is above the law.
Nobody's above the law.
No person is above the law.
No one 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 is above the law.
You're not above the law. You're not an elite. You're not untouchable. And so it's nice to see that the rule of law has returned.
Yeah, let's see if they feel that way coming up, right? Let's see if it sticks, if they continue to stick by this mantra. I thought this was kind of cute. All these different headlines, if you will. It's just amazing, ladies and gentlemen, the different standard here. This is Ari Fletcher. I don't know if James Comey is innocent or guilty, but I do know that when the Biden DOJ indicted Trump and aged Peter Navarro, Steve Bannon, the Washington Post, New York Times treated it as straightforward news, not as Biden going after his opponents, but now it's all about Trump getting his enemies. Isn't that interesting, right? It's the way it always is. This was the headlines back then. Bannon indicted on contempt charges over House's Capitol riot inquiry. Another one from the Washington Post. Steve Bannon indicted after refusal to comply with January 6th committee subpoena. Another one. Navarro indicted as Justice Department ops not to charge Meadows and Scavino. And finally, the Washington Post. Former Trump advisor Peter Navarro charged with contempt of Congress. It is interesting how this talking head media, this legacy media, if you will, how they have an agenda and they always tell you what is not the truth, and they always spin it to meet whatever their political persuasion may be. It's just the way it is. We all know it. Boom. It's just that simple. Here is a interesting little quick video too. Trump indictments, not selective prosecutions. Great day for America. And then now that Comey is indicted, let's see what this individual had to say.
He is being treated no better or worse than anyone else. This is not selective prosecution, that this is not somebody who's singled out, that he is being treated just like anyone else. That is what it means to have a rule of law. That is what the Justice Department is really signaling and messaging here, is that everyone will be treated, as Merrick Garland has said, as equally in this country. This is really a great day for America.
This is such a horrendous moment for the rule of law, for the Department of Justice, for the country writ large, being singled out for impermissible reasons. And so just because you did your job, but just because you referred the president or you opened an investigation into the president, those are not legitimate reasons to have a sort of tit for tat vindictive prosecution. Mm-hmm. This looks like it.
Well, they are really stretching, folks, as far as what did we used to say when I was a kid? The rooster has come home to roost, or something like that. What's fair for the goose is fair for the gander. They started this lawfare, and I am very certain that President Trump is going to finish it. I can't remember what this guy's name is, but he's a complete dork, obviously. It is what it is. And here's another one, too, with our friend James Comey here. One other thing, too, I stumbled across, I was just thinking about, we all know and love Martha Stewart. Remember, she went to federal prison, not for insider trading. She went, I believe it was 5 or 6 months, something along them lines. She went to the federal penitentiary because she allegedly lied to the FBI, said something that was not true. And listen, my opinion, this is something James Comey and his Department of Justice did because he wanted to have a trophy named Martha Stewart. Who in their right mind goes after Martha Stewart? Again, just my opinion. Let's see what our friend James Comey, see if he's had a change of attitude when it comes to following the rule of law.
Convict him, bar him from future service, have the local prosecutors in New York pursue him for the fraudster that he was before he ever became president, lock him up.
Fear is the tool of a tyrant. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, and I'm innocent.
Convict.
Yeah, we'll see how innocent he is. Funny how they have a change of tune when this all, when the shoe is on the other foot. This is from Western Lensman. I will send a warning shot to Trump's allies. The statement was made approvingly by a CNN reporter about Steve Bannon's indictment by the Biden DOJ in November 2021. The report consisted of a warning shot from the Biden DOJ. Tapper goes after Bannon. Wonderful. What took Garland so long, or wondering what took Garland so long. It's just funny how they phrase this stuff. Not playing politics statements. Incredible to watch this propaganda press coverage in light of what we're seeing with a nonstop, and this is a quote, Trump goes after his political enemies, end quote, framing of the Comey indictment. Of course, the hypocrisy is everywhere.
Welcome to The Lead. I'm Jake Tapper, and we start, of course, with the breaking news. Former Trump advisor Steve Bannon has been indicted by a grand jury. An arrest warrant, we are told, will soon be signed by a judge. The indictment coming after Bannon refused a subpoena from the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th insurrection. Let's get straight to CNN's Jessica Schneider on the scene outside the courthouse. Jessica, what specifically has Steve Bannon been charged with?
Well, Jake, we now know that Steve Bannon has been charged with 2 counts of contempt of Congress, and the Department of Justice.
And remember, he spent time in the pen over this.
That's right. I mean, we should note that Congress calls people to testify all the time, and oil magnates and tobacco.
Yeah, he's like, hey, if you get called by Congress, you have to testify. If you lie to Congress, you have to be held accountable. But they have a different opinion. Shortly
criticized for taking his time with this. Did he have anything to say today?
He did. He actually released quite a lengthy statement, courtesy of the Department of Justice. I'll read just a little bit about it because he talks about this. I have promised.
I'm going to bounce around here a little bit on it.
Possible criticism or claims, leaving it up to his
That was the main take on it.
With
is outrageous how they are so blatant. They have one standard in 2021 and a different standard in 2025. It all depends on what side of the political aisle you are on. Here's one of my favorites, one of my personal favorites. And we'll see if this comes back to bite Mr. Comey. And remember, this is in relation as to whether Donald Trump should go to prison, if it was possible to put him in prison, and how to handle it if he goes to prison. Tell me if this makes your blood boil, right? Here we go.
So a lot of people have suggested that there are a range of factors that would make it difficult to put the system has not been tested in this way. Do you agree with that it would be difficult or nearly impossible for the law enforcement institutions to put him in actual jail?
No, they would just put him in a double wide somewhere out near the fence, out in the grass. And he would eat there, he'd shower there, he'd exercise there, he'd be away, as Danya Perry said, from general population, but it's obviously doable.
Oh man, what a jerk. What a jerk. That guy just makes he just makes my blood boil when I think about him and some of his nonsense. Oh, well, let's move on to the next one here. We get.
So a lot of people have suggested that there are.
Make sure you hit the right button there. All right. Jesse, our friend Jesse from Fox News, does an excellent presentation on exactly what James Comey did. And then we're going to go ahead and move on. And I have not forgot your questions. I will get to them. Just give me a second here. Bear with me a minute. Let's go through this. I want to just hit some of the highlights. We're not going to listen to the whole thing. But Jesse, as usual, has an interesting way of looking at this situation. So here we go.
If an FBI director lies to Congress about what he did to Trump, what else has he done? What else has he done to a lot of people? And what else has he covered up? When an FBI director lies to Congress, he lies to us. You'd think Democrats would care, but they don't. Democrats don't mind being lied to, and they don't care if it's the FBI director or anyone.
If you want to start prosecuting anybody that's ever lied to Congress, I mean, you would have literally almost nothing else that you could go after, because people lied in front of us all the time, even people under oath.
A former member of Congress just said everyone lies to Congress under oath. And he says it's no big deal. And he doesn't want anything done about it. It's like one of the most rotten things you'll ever hear in Washington. And you hear a lot of rotten stuff. A congressman saying, yep, we're all lying to each other. We all know it's a crime. And who cares? He's saying you're going to have to lock up everyone. Okay.
Lock them up,
Let's
right?
Start with James Comey then. Might as well start somewhere.
The old saying, what comes around goes around. I think it's time for Republican colleagues to say enough is enough, and we are going to push.
Quick note: I've never liked this man right here, this jerk from Connecticut. This guy used to be the AG from the state of Connecticut. And I don't know if you were watching this the other day, yesterday, as a matter of fact. Oh, Pam Bondi, I tell you what, she was ripping them hard at that hearing. She was taking no prisoners, if you will. We're going to talk about it in a later video, but man, if you haven't seen it, make sure you Google it, watch it on YouTube. Oh, Pam Bondi was in there swinging hard, and she called out our friend right here from Connecticut. He's now a senator, obviously, from Connecticut. She told him directly that, hey, don't ever question my credibility. This guy apparently lied on some application about his military service. I'm assuming, I think I remember something about it years ago. Stated something about military service, and it turned out it was false.
And do it hard.
These people have the nerve to threaten us. What goes around comes around. We didn't start this.
That's right.
You did. It's coming around, and it's going to come around so hard. Hopefully, it'll be the end of it. And if it's not, we'll just blanket pardon everyone like Biden as Trump goes out the door. I bet James Comey wishes he had one of those. They didn't think Trump was going to punch back, and this is only the beginning.
That's right.
I think there'll be others. I mean, they're corrupt. These were corrupt, radical left Democrats. Because Comey essentially was
He's one of them, ladies and gentlemen. Make no mistake about it. He's only one of them. I really, really am prayerful, and I'm hoping Letitia James comes very soon. I know I've seen published reports saying that they're not going to indict her, and I hope that is not the case. Clearly, she's committed, at least if the paperwork is correct that I've looked at. There are serious problems with these mortgages that she has obtained. Also, Adam Schiff, this guy has lied to each and every one of us. How many times has he been on camera, looked into the camera, and lied to each and every one of us? And it's kind of like something out of the McCarthy area. Hey, I have a piece of paper here. I can't disclose it because it's confidential or it's top secret, but I'm telling you, we got the goods on President Trump. This guy's a Russian asset. I can't disclose it, but I'm telling you, this guy is crooked. This guy is bad. And it was all a complete fabrication. These people should be held accountable. How about sweet Fannie Willis down there in Georgia with Loverboy Nathan Wade? Clearly, they have committed, in my opinion, perjury under oath. They're still together. I have shown many videos at different times. We've discussed the subject of Fannie Willis with Loverboy Nathan Wade. The last time they were questioned under oath about this, they told the court that they broke up some time ago, that they're no longer seeing each other. And clearly that's another lie in the series of lies. Just conflating different reports that I have personally looked into and checked. It looks to me like there's some serious corruption going on in Fulton County. And by the way, that is nothing new. As a matter of fact, MLK Jr. himself would never have been a famous individual had it been for Fulton County, because it turned out JFK himself had to call Fulton County and get him released. Fulton County has a long tradition of corruption, of fraud, of just malfeasance. And of course, you have Fannie Willis, Nathan Wade continuing in that long, apparently proud tradition that they have there. There's been several reports that, again, we've talked about on this program of just on a smaller level, just different scams. I don't know another word to call it, that Fulton County under DA Fannie Willis has been engaged in. I don't want to get off on the tangent today, but thank God for Attorney Ashley Merchant, who actually took time, dug in to these facts and started bringing these facts to light. She was the one that found the former partner of Nathan Wade and started questioning him about just different facts that we did not know. And as it turns out, you have DA Fannie Willis that essentially gave Loverboy $750,000 to $1 million in cash, and then he turns around and takes her on trips. And of course, when it comes to sweet Fannie Willis, there's no records of anything, at least according to her, because she's black and she keeps cash in her house. That's what she told the court anyways. There are so many examples of lies under oath between Fannie Willis, Nathan Wade, and just other things in general. They can really, in my opinion, just take their pick as to what target to go after or to focus on. And I really hope they do. And they need to take a look at Alvin Bragg, Judge Merchant, all of these people that seem to have collaborated on some level. Jack Smith, when it comes to Judge Merchant in New York City, what is the odds that out of 20, 30 judges that they have, that all of the cases surrounding President Donald Trump went to one judge? It's supposed to be a random lottery of sorts. I took a math class, a statistics class at Baylor University a long time ago, and I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, this is the probability of multiple cases going to one judge in a supposed lottery system is not plausible. It's not credible that it was just random. I digress. It needs to all be looked at. There's too much evidence that Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, Letitia James, I believe Alvin Bragg and others all went to the White House and coordinated this whole lawfare campaign against President Trump and other people associated with President Trump in an effort to get Donald Trump, to take him down, to take him and anyone who was standing with President Trump down. And that's obscene. It should not stand. It should never have been allowed, and it has to be squashed.
Worse than the Democrats. They weaponized the Justice Department like nobody in history. What they've done is terrible. And so I hope there are others, because you can't let this happen to a country.
When your opponent declares war, you don't surrender. You don't roll over. You fight back, and fight back to win. Win so convincingly there's never another war. If Trump doesn't fight back, the Democrats are just going to keep putting more and more of our people in prison.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. And that's the main point right here of this whole situation involving this lawfare and the so-called retribution, ladies and gentlemen. It has to be this way. It absolutely has to be this way. Because, as you just heard Jesse say, if we don't fight back, if we don't hold these people to account and let them know that if you engage in this behavior going forward, if you decide to engage in this type of behavior, that's fine, no problem. But understand that sooner or later, the other party is going to come back to power, and there's going to be an accountability. There's going to be, someone's going to give an account as to what transpired. When you do it to one, it's going to be done to you. And you know what? What really makes me mad, what really burns me bad, is that this great country of ours, I mean, listen, when I bleed, I promise you, I bleed red, white, and blue. I love this country. This country's been good to me my entire life and for my entire family, as I'm sure it has for you. And to know that Joe Biden and the individuals surrounding him did this to our great country, engaged in this lawfare, took our nation down this type of path, this really burns me and burns me bad. And that's just not me spitting out words here. I'm telling you, this is insane. We have way too many problems to always be fighting between each other. It has to stop, but it can only stop when these people are held accountable. When everything is investigated, that they peel all the layers to this onion, they find exactly who's responsible, who participated in what and how it went down, and they have to put a stop to it. And you know what? There's one more thing to think about here too. Because of the Biden administration, here's a prediction from me now. I'll play this tape later in 3 years, whatever. We'll see how it turns out. But what's going to have to happen, unfortunately, in our great country, is now when a president leaves office, just like I predicted with President Joe Biden, the president is going to have to pardon, a blanket pardon to everyone associated with him for all crimes, known or unknown, against the United States. It's going to have to be a more generic type pardon, because it's going to have to cover everybody. Otherwise, you're going to have the next administration now trying to get back, in this case, against the Trump administration. And it's just going to continue in perpetuity unless it is squashed hard. But unfortunately, that's my prediction. That is a consequence going forward. The president doesn't really have to worry about a lot, because thank God the Supreme Court come down with the ruling that it did. last year pertaining to the fact that a sitting president, in effect, cannot be prosecuted for any perceived crimes. And thank God it worked out like that. Otherwise, our country would be in serious, serious jeopardy. But let's see. I think you're going to see a ton of pardons from President Trump as he leaves office. And I think you're going to see pardons written in a more generic manner where it just says, hey, any and all officials in my administration are hereby pardoned for any and all crimes known or unknown that may have been taking place between this date and that date. It's just going to have to be that way. Otherwise, you're going to have the potential of a continuation of this if, God forbid, the woke Democrats in their current form ever come back to power. And by the way, Democrats, please wake up. Please see the error of your ways. You folks are lost. You don't have a leader. You don't have a direction. Well, maybe you do have a direction, but it's the wrong direction. You're going down this woke, radical, nuts, this craziness. It has to stop. Let's go back to the Bill Clinton I remember in the 90s. It's okay to be a little liberal, be a little progressive. That's fine. But at least have some common sense. You know, there are only two sexes. There are boys and there are girls. Trust me, it's not a difficult question. Let's just pray about it, folks, and let's hope that God heals our nation and brings back some common sense, especially to the woke Democrats. And right now, the path that they are on does not look like they're headed in a good place. So let me check some comments here and see if anyone has any questions. American Ann, thank you always for being here. She says they would have sent President Trump to prison without a doubt. If President Trump doesn't take care of them, they will come back after him. Yes, absolutely. Along with his friends and administration. Absolutely. Just kind of like we were just talking about. Comey's a scumbag at best, and I won't bother to even comment on his daughter. That's right. He's got his daughter. She was terminated. I believe she was terminated. She either quit. No, she was terminated, I believe, by the DOJ. And she's the one that, in my opinion, lost that P. Diddy case against him. I'm not sure that case was properly charged anyways. But again, I don't want to digress onto that. But that's a big failure on her part, either way you look at it. And I have seen some of the January 6th tapes, American, and I have not seen them all, but it is one of the many things that I am actively looking into. There's a lot to say about January 6th. Again, thank God President Trump came to office. Thank God he's bold enough, strong enough not to worry about what everybody thinks as far as looking at each case individually. What did he do? He made a bold, decisive decision. He just said, I pardon everybody. Boom, done. Let's move on to the next subject. And to that, I say amen. Bondi, American Ass says, Bondi, let them hell have it. Yes, it was fantastic entertainment. Of course, we're talking about the hearing that took place yesterday in front of the Senate. She was ripping them. I totally agree with you on that, American Anna. That is true. So let me leave you with this. What we're witnessing right now is history. For years, the Democrats and their allies in the media told us Donald Trump was finished. They told us the indictments, the bankruptcies, the sham trials, that was the end for President Trump. They laughed, they cheered, they said, hey, no one's above the law, right? We have to hold him accountable. Well, today, those very same words have come back to haunt them. And of course, James Comey has been indicted. He's been arraigned. And this is just the beginning. I guarantee you, this is just the beginning. Because here's the truth. The swamp lit this fire. They weaponized the justice system. They tried to take out a president, his family, his friends, his supporter. They called us deplorable. They said all kinds of nasty things about us that basically we are just scum. And now that same fire is burning them. Retribution is here. Call it whatever you want. Accountability is here. And the American people are cheering it on. So yes, let the Democrats scream. Let the woke Democrats scream loudly. Let the media cry. Let the swamp panic. Because for the first time in years, justice is moving in the right direction. And to that, ladies and gentlemen, I say amen and amen. I appreciate everyone joining me today. If you haven't done so already, please hit the thumbs up on the video and, of course, subscribe. So whenever I do have the opportunity to go live, you are made aware of when a program comes on, so you don't miss hearing me say whatever is on my mind a particular day. Always appreciate each and every one of you taking time to join me and engage in a conversation. I always say, keep that mind free, never give up. And until next time, I am J.R. Dukes.